think it's safe to get started. I want to say good afternoon to everyone. It's great to see you all, and I hope everyone is having a great start to the school year. Before we begin, I would like to have just a moment just to take go over a few housekeeping rules. We're just asking for all the attendees that are here to remain on mute until the Q&A session, which will be immediately after today's presentation. So this series serves as a lunch and learn. So please feel free, enjoy your lunch. If you could do that on camera.
This meeting is being recorded.
That'll be no worries at all on that end, and it's a judgment-free zone. I also want to make mention that the session is recorded, as you probably heard. That's indicated at the top left corner. So I just want to make sure everyone is aware of that. I want to say thank you again. My name is Kyle Tribble. I serve as Director of Culture and Engagement here at the School District DEI office. I want to thank you all for taking the time to stop by, and I want to welcome you all to the Equity in Practice series. So this is our second school year hosting Equity in Practice, and we're looking forward to the variety of partners to share their culture, expertise, and insights. I also want to take time to recognize and wish you all a happy Hispanic Heritage Month. This is a great opportunity to celebrate, learn about the beautiful culture of the Latin community. And also, I hope that today's session will do just that as well. So thank you. So for those who don't know, I'm going to give a quick background on what Equity in Practice is. And it's pretty much a series of, more so a collection of community learning opportunities hosted by the School District of Philadelphia's Office of DEI in collaboration with community-based organizations, also known as CBOs, that are focused on equity, cultural awareness, and/or social justice. The goal of this series is pretty much to establish a community of learning between the SDP community and CBOs that will promote collective learning, collective action that leads to equitable change throughout the city of Philadelphia. And as always, we want to start with our historically marginalized communities and populations. So with that, I want to thank you again for attending our first session for the new year. For today's session, we're excited to welcome Dominic Moret from Taller Puertorricenos, Community Engagement Manager. Taller is a community-based organization that does amazing work and is focused on a cultural organization that uses art to promote development within the community and the Latinx diaspora, and also to build bridges from that community to the greater Philadelphia region. So their work is phenomenal and is centered around preserving and promoting Puerto Rican arts and culture. So I want to take the time to thank Taller and Dominic for their collaboration. And I will pass it on to Dominic. You can take it away.
Thank you so much, Kyle. Hello, everyone. My name is Dominic Moret. I am the Community Engagement Manager here at Taller Puertorriceno. I'm going to start sharing my screen so that way I can bring up my presentation that I will be giving for today. So I just want to make sure that everyone can see this. We're good to go? Great. So as I was saying before, I am the Community Engagement Manager at Taller Puertorriceno. You can see my email listed here, dmoret@tallerpr.org. If you have any questions after the presentation, I'd be more than happy to answer them via email. I try to be as responsive as possible in my emails, so you'll probably get a pretty quick response from me. But I just want to share some examples of how we do equity in practice within our organization here at Taller Puertorriceno. But first, I want to talk about who I am as a member of Taller and a member of the community that we serve. So first things about me, even though I work as the Community Engagement Manager here at Taller, I started off mostly being involved as an artist. I got my Bachelor of Fine Arts from Ringling College of Art and Design under the illustration program. So I have worked as an artist and illustrator in a variety of ways, mostly pertaining to education and facilitating other artists. But alongside that, I'm an avid oil painter and illustrator, still working in freelance and doing projects here and there. So a lot of times you may find some stuff that I'm working on, or you may find me outside painting on my off hours. In addition to that, I love being an educator. I love teaching. I love being able to provide opportunities to teach others in many different ways. It kind of leads into my job, where I lead a team of teaching artists to many different schools that we are partnered with. And of course, when I'm not doing any of that stuff, because I like to keep myself busy, I'm an avid bartender. I love being able to just take care of people, and I always figured out that was a nice way of being able to do that in different capacities. I'm also quite nerdy. I love being able to read books and play games, specifically board games or like tabletop games. I play a lot of like Dungeons and Dragons and those types of things. I actually bring it into a lot of the ways that I educate, because I believe that Dungeons and Dragons is a team building exercise in a lot of ways, and it teaches students, who I tend to teach the game to, how to think critically and how to work in a sort of like team-based environment, because the point is never to be against each other, rather to work alongside each other to fulfill the quest or whatever it is that they are doing in that moment. So I would also like for you to meet my team, the team that I get to see every day in not only our 9 to 5, but in many other hours outside of that capacity. We are very dedicated artists in our own rights. We are passionate. We're excitable. We are a little strange, a little quirky, but we have a lot of fun together regardless. This picture was taken during one of our community events, where we got to put on a fashion show as a spring fundraiser, and I will talk a little bit more about that later on. But yeah, we're all a bunch of quirky, fun peeps. So let me talk a little bit about Taller Puertorriqueño as an organization. Our mission is to provide arts and culture to the local community with educational resources, with cultural opportunities and events, and through our multitude of programs that express so. So programs that we currently have include the Cultural Exploration Program, which is basically an after-school program that services the youth from ages 6 to 13. We also have another program for the youth called the Youth Arts Program. That is another after-school program that services youth from ages 14 to 18. During both of these programs, we tend to focus on arts, and we try to focus on different applications of art within those programs. In the Cultural Exploration Program, we tend to kind of focus on different forms of those applications through music, through visual arts, through performance, but we also have some STEM components where we get to build terrariums, or we get to learn about different animals, and we get to learn about science and different applications of that within the art fields as well. We believe that it's not only STEM, but we try to incorporate STEAM into the overall programs. And we have a few teaching artists who are very qualified in many of those aspects, along with an education coordinator who focuses specifically on making sure that the students are having fun and being educated during that time. In the Youth Arts Program, we focus mostly on portfolio building and creating a safe space for youth to grow as artists. We believe that there is a level of professionalism that you start to reach when you get to those ages where you can become a working artist, you can become someone who has goals with your art, whether it is to do freelance work or create a portfolio to get into an art college or create a portfolio to get into an internship. We have multiple examples of students who have achieved goals such as that, and we look to expand upon that in the future. We do it in multiple different avenues, ranging from fashion to digital work to sculpture to printmaking, so on and so forth. All of these different applications are meant as a way to allow students to recognize that this is a way for you to build your portfolio, build your clientele, and treat yourself as a professional, because no matter what age you are, you should consider yourself a professional, especially in the fields of art, as long as you carry yourself as one. When we have gallery presentations within our space, we do it through our exhibitions program, which is run by our exhibitions manager, Rafael Demast. Rafael works with artists, many Latino artists, and beyond that, to present their work within our gallery space, which is called the Lorenzo Omar Gallery. Currently, our gallery is featuring Patrick McGrath Munoz, and we'll be featuring him through the month of October. We just had the opening for him, and the gallery itself was guest curated by another artist named Daniel de Jesus. The Visítenos program is a program that I specifically run. It is a program where we service 1,500 students on a weekly basis with our partnered schools, and currently, we have 11 partnered schools within mostly the North Philadelphia area. Through this program, we send art teachers, teaching artists specifically, to teach arts and culture to the local community. And through those applications, we send them to do a variety of things, ranging from visual arts to dance to music. We have a Bomba en Plena group that goes to a few schools and teaches our students, and then all of that culminates in a final performance that we do towards the end of the year, where our students come into our space and basically get to perform for not only their peers, but their parents and the community within our area. Of course, we also have rentals, where we rent out our space to a lot of local community members, but also a lot of our partners and schools and just people who are interested in using a space like ours, which includes a theater, it includes a lobby space, it includes classroom spaces, all types of spaces that are very modular and used for a variety of things, from the mayoral forum to a quinceañera. One thing that we are we take a lot of pride in is having an archive space. Our archives are currently run by the archives manager. Her name is Masada Divine. In that space, we have a variety of pictures, documents, artifacts, things that have been collected over time that sort of reflect not only the history of Taller Puertorriqueño, but the history of the community that we serve. We service a lot of elders programs as well. Through the elders programs, we are able to do things like sewing classes. We're able to do sort of partnered work with a lot of the older community, the elders communities that are around us. And through those partnerships, a lot of our elders come in and participate in things like our fashion show. And we look to expand upon that as time goes on. One thing that I also forgot to mention is that we do a lot of tours around the community, and we are currently in the process of sort of revamping that alongside memorializing Fair Hill and those types of things. So we like to talk about the history of our local community, the history of El Centro de Oro, which you will get a sneak peek at as the presentation goes through. Our newest development is currently our textile design program, our Tramando program. This is a Pew funded program where we will be sort of looking to explore textile design through workshops and sort of expanding upon that as time goes on. This is a very new development that we are very proud to sort of expand upon as we go on. So let's talk about some of the history of Taller Puertorriqueño, because that also kind of ties into the history of the community. Within this community known as El Centro de Oro, there was a lot of battles that have been going on as far as like wanting to express the creativity that kind of came from the island of Puerto Rico when it comes to screen printing and the carteles movement, and a lot of these artists that came from an art group known as Divedco. So a group of artists led by Domingo Negron wanted to teach arts and culture to the local community and kind of expand upon that movement. There was an effort of doing screen printing classes and teaching and really using education as a focus to build upon within the community. Of course, the influence starts to grow, the notoriety starts to grow. There's an addition of supporting and sort of highlighting other people's work through a gallery space, through a bookstore where a lot of local crafts started to be sold, and books and so on and so forth. Workshops started to be held more and more, and the image of Taller Puertorriqueño started to grow once we started doing more community-based events as well. Our first official location was on 5th and Indiana. You can see that we had our old icons and images and logos kind of being shown. And then on the right side, you can see our current official location on 5th and Lehigh. Our first official location on 5th and Indiana was kind of founded in the late 70s after 1974, which is when we started officially. And then our current location was was finished on December 9th, 2016 as an $11.5 million cultural endeavor. We have a wall to thank all of our donors who had made the creation of the building possible. This is an example of some of the of what it looks like to be involved in something like the education program, where you see we have a lot of students who kind of come in to do big performances towards the end of the year or end of the semester. We like to highlight a lot of the work that the students will do. So our walls are covered in a lot of their work, their artwork, or sometimes we'll put up videos of the performances. A lot of times, since they've been doing a lot of fashion work recently, we put up a lot of the garments that they've made or the efforts that they've done to do some sort of activism and things like that. This is an example of what our archives looks like. This is more of an older example because right now we're in the process of refurbishing and opening up the archives a little bit more. On the left, you see a picture of our bookstore, the Julia de Burgos bookstore, which is the only bilingual Spanish and English bookstore in Philadelphia. It is managed by Lisa Moser, who knows a lot about each book that is in the bookstore. So if you come in and ask Lisa about any of the specific books, she'll be able to tell you quite a bit about each one. In addition, we have a lot of artwork and crafts and jewelry from a lot of local artisans and artists to check out. And that artwork ranges from jewelry to there's a lot of like garments that have been made. There's paintings, there's necklaces, so on and so forth. And there's a lot of flags, of course. An example on the right of the Visítenos program is one of the performances that had been done by some of the students. At the end of the year, like I'd said before, this is an example of what the performance sort of looks like when these students come together and sort of have a culminating show. When you do rentals with us, you'll see that one of the options is in our theater space. You can see that our theater space is pretty expansive. It holds 330 people standing and 270 people seated. Alongside that, our cultural events, of course, we do a multitude of different cultural events ranging from our Feria del Barrio that happens every year during the summer. We do a Schaumburg Symposium that happens earlier on in the year. We are also doing an Encendido Navideño, which happens towards the end of the year for our holiday season. And we do Thanksgiving sort of lunch and coat drive for the local community to try to bring some local community members in to share in resources, share in food, and just feel welcome within our space. So going along with that, one of the ways that I like to highlight our efforts of equity is through what I like to call cultural equity. In our efforts of providing education to the local community, still within many of our programs, cultural equity is providing education through understanding the history and culture that may affect their day-to-day lives. What I mean by that is history and culture is so ingrained within much of the Latino community that it is expressed in ways that we don't even realize. For instance, growing up, Spanglish was always a thing for me. I didn't really know what a living room was. I always called it la sala or la salita or or la cocina. Like, you don't realize that you're saying something like this because you always grew up just being like, that's what it was called. And sometimes, you know, a student may come in and they may think, I grew up saying it like this because I always spoke Spanish or Spanglish at home. So when they come into a space like Taller for their after school programs, or when they come in for community events, we use our human resources to allow for our staff, much of us being bilingual, to allow them to feel comfortable in using Spanglish or using language that they feel comfortable in, to try to be like, oh, okay, I can speak like this, like I do with my grandmother, or like with my tia or my titi, or other members of my family. In addition to that, using the cultural resources to let them know, oh, okay, I've always seen what a vejigante mask is, but I didn't really know what they were called. Or, yeah, my parents listened to this type of music, but I didn't really know what it was called or why it mattered or where it came from. We use a lot of our historical knowledge and understanding of these cultures to tell them, yeah, this is why this happens. This is why your parents listen to this type of music, or this is where the vejigante came from, or this is an understanding of like some of the history of Puerto Rico and why your tío may have a Puerto Rican flag hanging out of his house. And through the Teaching Artist program, we bring a lot of that knowledge into the schools. So that way we can add that cultural perspective to make sure that students and teachers understand, okay, this is why this is so significant to maybe your family, or maybe this is why it's so significant that, you know, your titi only speaks to you in Spanish and she wants you to respond in Spanish. So that way they would know and understand their culture a little bit better. Alongside that, the efforts of language equity is a very big thing that we focus on. As I had said before, all of our resources are Spanish and English bilingual. Mentioned before, we also only have the only bilingual bookstore in Philadelphia, the only Spanish and English bilingual bookstore. And we share these resources with educators who come to the bookstore around the city. We do our best to make sure that these resources are open and available for anyone who may want to come in. And our bookstore manager, Lisa Moser, likes to work with educators to provide discounts for their classes. So a lot of times talking to her to get more specifics about that is really just a wealth of information, because much of the books range from children's books to chapter books to graphic novels, so on and so forth. And through these resources, you may also learn of ways to get like bulk resources for your for your classes or for students, things like things that may provide a new perspective for the students. One of the recent books that I know Lisa has been promoting alongside the author is a book called Plátanos Are Love. The way that Lisa likes to promote these is through a Meet the Author series. These Meet the Author series happen bi-weekly usually, where every other Saturday, authors come in and they speak and they get to talk about their book. A lot of times, if it's a children's book, they will do a read along, and kids can come in and kind of listen and be provided some form of like snacks or refreshments while being able to talk to the author or even get a signed copy of the book. These are sort of connections to the local community because a lot of the authors that Lisa works with are either local within the area or local to Puerto Rico. We like to promote that speaking Spanish and being able to exercise your culture and language is safe within a space like Taller Puertorriqueño. We like to promote that it is a safe space for them to do that. So I touched on a little bit the history of the community and how it's kind of changed over time. Currently, the community that Taller Puertorriqueño represents is called Historic Fairhill, outside of where we are, but a lot of people in here just call it the barrio or el centro de oro because it is a primarily Spanish-speaking community. It is also a community that has battled numerous gentrification efforts from private corporations and from the city of Philadelphia. Historically, really, this community of Puerto Ricans and other Latinos actually kind of came in around like the post-World War II era, where when they were sort of starting to get displaced out of the island, excuse me, through sort of economic issues and cultural issues and gentrification issues that are happening actually within the island of Puerto Rico still to this day. When people started to get displaced and tried to find new jobs and new spaces to sort of work and take care of their family, one of the places was Philadelphia. The other places were Chicago and New York for mainly Puerto Ricans. And when they came to Philadelphia, a lot of them had to find communities to live in, and over time that became Historic Fairhill or El Centro de Oro. These gentrification efforts have sort of caused anti-gentrification efforts to build up from nonprofit organizations like ASE, which stands for Hispanic Associations of Contractors and Enterprises, where you can see that there is a sort of example of one of their anti-gentrification efforts down on the bottom right. When you come to El Centro de Oro, you'll see that there is a literal golden path that has been installed into the sidewalks. And initially, the golden path was supposed to be associated with, or supposed to be followed along with a sort of green path that would represent the interior side, and then a blue path that would be on the exterior side, sort of facing the street. This was supposed to kind of be an image of Puerto Rico, representing the green for the land, the yellow for the gold for the golden path, and then the blue for the ocean. The green and blue didn't really come to fruition, but we were able to get the golden path sort of installed in the 80s, and then it was added into like permanently into the sidewalk since then. There was also an effort to install palm trees to once again represent coming to Puerto Rico and adding this sort of feeling of being back in PR when you're in Philadelphia. The palm trees were were created and installed by Wendell Turner and ASE. It cost about $4 million to do this installation in 2011. And initially they wanted the city to pay for it, but unfortunately, through some back and forths and then trying to get Pico to do it, it happened to be a community funded thing. So these anti-gentrification efforts are something that instill a lot of pride for the local community. So they get involved in those types of installations. They also get involved in the murals and development of those. You'll see that a lot of the murals around here either have community influence or have representatives of the community within them. So sometimes people will point up and be like, oh yeah, that's me, or oh, I did that poem. So why do we care about this? Part of it is because it is a community that is rich in culture and not money. Statistically, historic Fairhill has 61% of the community in poverty, according to the US Census in 2018. It's no secret. This community is not does not do well economically. There are a lot of people here who receive some sort of economic resource, economic help. A lot of the youth tend to receive some sort of economic help. They will either get some hand-me-downs, or they'll get like reduced lunch or free lunch. A lot of the youth will kind of wear the same clothing over and over, or they'll be taken care of by grandparents or uncles or things like that. And these are things that they're comfortable with because a lot of times they're told like, well, culturally, you should be proud of this and that and so on and so forth, which is true. And we really try to focus on that. We try to focus on the fact that they can come into a space like Taller Puertorriqueño, or we can go to them and be like, let's do something amazing for you, like bring in a full festival into your neighborhood, or do a tour where you can see beautiful artwork that is surrounding you, or highlight some of the beautiful artwork that you're already doing, and really try to focus on those aspects. Because of the monetary frustrations that a lot of their families have gone through. This is a generational thing that has plagued a lot of this community, where many of them moved to places like Philadelphia to get resources, but then over time, those resources dwindled because factory work moved out of the city, or because a lot of the family members would receive resources from nonprofit organizations like APM or El Concilio or ACE or Congreso, and those resources or programs may run out or may shift over time. So I mentioned culture a lot because I believe that these students are the future of culture, specifically the Latino culture, due to the rise in a lot of youth wanting to find out who they are or where they come from, or how they want to be represented. There are a lot of Latino students who are out there trying to be like, who am I? How do I fit in all of this? What makes me me? A lot of Latino students receive government subsidies due to generational poverty. Many of them speak Spanish at home. Many of them come into your classes starting at 5 or 6 years old, not speaking English most of the time. Or they'll speak limited English because they may be raised by their abuelita, who only speaks Spanish. And then they'll come in and they are expected to learn English in school while speaking Spanish at home. And these communications may kind of have some of the students struggling a little bit, because it's like, well, when I go home and I try to do my homework, I'm trying to figure out, okay, I can't have my grandmother help me out, or I can't have my titi help me out because they never learn English, or they're in a community where most people don't speak English, especially around El Centro de Oro. A lot of parents here don't speak English. And that's because within this community, they don't have to. A lot of the shops and a lot of the stores that they go to, they don't need to speak English. And one thing that we're also finding a lot of resurgence in is the efforts of Afro-Latinos, finding out that they are Puerto Rican or they are Dominican, even though they would say before, like, I'm not Spanish, but then they realize, oh, wait a minute, my grandmother spoke Spanish. My grandmother only spoke Spanish, but maybe we didn't pay attention as much. And reclaiming that resurgence of Afro-Latinos has been a big effort, especially recently. And as I had said before, notice that your Latino students may be fed and clothed by their grandparents, aunts, uncles, etc. So these are some representations of how we show Puerto Rican culture. In Taller Puertorriqueño, we like to sort of diversify our efforts outside of just screen printing, which, don't get me wrong, it's very important, and we're actually coming back to those roots. But we also recognize that through Vejigante masks and making those, we have a lot of fun in getting the students involved in that. Through learning their history and trying to represent it through what you're wearing, or through festivals is a big thing. And then through learning dance, we try to give people a space where they could learn how to do some bomba en plena dance, or they could learn how to do some salsa dancing, or they could learn just how to appreciate music that actually came from not only the island of Puerto Rico, but from other cultures and backgrounds. So I want to, before I move on to the next slide, I do want to kind of mention that there is a there are some efforts that you guys could also learn from the students to try to be like, okay, this is a I guess this is a sort of outlet that could be used for us within a classroom space to kind of grow within, I guess, kind of connecting to their culture outside of just being like, okay, should I read a book about this? Should I really like involve myself in learning Spanish, which is a forever journey. It won't always be perfect, but you'll always learn little bits of Spanish here and there, especially if you listen as close as possible. I always recommend that you learn from your Latino students by being open to the cultural differences that they may present. If they say something along the lines of like, we celebrate something called Three Kings Day. Learning about Three Kings Day, learning about what that is historically is always an interesting way of kind of adding that culture, especially some in the historical importance that goes along with it, into a classroom space, because the three kings are considered like the three wise men outside of that holiday practice, and tying those together can always be fun. And that kind of ties into participating in their celebrations. What is a Three Kings Day celebration like? It's fun. It's really fun. I promise you, looking into that is really cool. Also being open to the resources that can help you understand their culture a little bit more. Learning from those resources is the easiest way to figure out what is the best way to approach like cultural and language equity. As I had said before, we at Taller Puertorriceno do our best to provide as many resources with our partners as possible. From literature to tours to other resources that we get from our other partners, we're not stingy. We try to share it out to as many people as possible. In addition to that, a start of your language learning could be even learning the fact that Taller Puertorriqueño translates literally to Puerto Rican workshop. Taller is workshop, Puertorriqueño, Puerto Rican. It's a Spanish name in on its own. Or, places like Asociación Puertorriqueños en Marcha, APM. Most people just call it APM. These are things that we hope that a lot of educators recognize, that you have those resources available to you. Just ask. So to finish this off, I just want to talk about the last, some of our cultural events that we like to do within our community. The thing that just passed is the Feria del Barrio. That happened. That's an annual thing. We just celebrated our 39th annual Feria. It's a big celebration. It's a big festival outside. We have a lot of performers and tables and things going on, and it's open and free to the public. We also have an annual fashion show that in which we highlight our students who do a lot of work where they sew garments and then they get to model them within our space. Our Encendido Navideño, which is our Christmas village type celebration. We're hoping to do another celebration similar to that this year. And then, of course, as I had said before, the Three Kings Day, which we have sort of modified to Three Kings and Queens Day. Our Schomburg Symposium, which is a focus on speaking to intellectuals and scholars who focus on specific topics that are sort of centered around Afro-Latinos. And it's a really big sort of symposium that lasts throughout the day, where these intellectuals get to speak to the community about some of their experiences or their findings. And last, I would like to highlight that the gallery space for Patrick McGrath Munoz. The exhibition Arcanas focuses on tarot and sort of a neo-colonial spin on tarot. I highly encourage you all to come into our gallery space for no cost. If you just want to come in and check out the gallery, by all means, we would be more than happy to facilitate that. If you would like to schedule a tour with us where we could guide your students through the gallery space and through the murals, we could also do a tour, and of course, run a workshop with them where they could learn how to dance, they could do screen printing, they could create jewelry. You can do all of those things if you look in our website at tallerpr.org, or you send me an email and I can give you some more information. And that's everything.
Thank you so much, Dominic. Really appreciate that presentation. Thank you so much for touching on cultural equity and language equity. But not only that, but I really appreciate you going back to the history of the neighborhood, which I think is very important. So I definitely appreciate that. We have a few minutes left, so I want to see if the audience has any questions for Dominic. We definitely can take a few. So feel free to come off mute and ask away.
I just wanted to know if there was a list or somewhere where I can sign up so I can get timely information about all the things that are happening over at Taller.
Yeah, so on our website, you can sign up for our newsletter, and then you will be receiving sort of timely updates for any of the upcoming cultural events that may be happening alongside Meet the Authors, or anything that may be happening that we feel like is important to the local community. So go on the website, sign up for the newsletter, and you'll be good to go for that.
All right, thank you so much.
And thank you, Kyle, for putting up the link for that. If you just want to put tallerpr.org, you can always check it out like that. Anything else like that.
Absolutely. Do we have any more questions?
Hi, I have a question. Dominic, you and I exchanged emails a couple of times at the end of last school year and kind of got stonewalled with paperwork from the districts as the COI form needed to be updated before field trips were allowed. Has that been resolved for this coming school year?
Yeah, definitely. So we have updated all of our COIs and all of our information has been fully updated. So, you know, we should be good to go as far as like any tours or like things like that. So yeah, just whenever you want to get that going, I'd be more than happy to take care of it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all of this. I did send you a message because it's just kind of a lot. But if you could chat via email, I would super love that. I'm Puerto Rican, and this is my second year actually teaching at a school where there is a second Hispanic person at my school, and usually we're the one in the whole school, trying to help our students feel represented and in our programs. So totally would love to work whatever we can with you guys in the future. Thank you so much for this.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's very common to see. There are a couple of schools that sort of have like bilingual classes or things like that, but it's very common to see like there's maybe one or two teachers that either speak Spanish, know Spanish, or are Puerto Rican or things like that. So I feel you. Thought there was another question, but yeah.
Yeah, are we good to go? Any more questions before? I know we have about 10 minutes left, and it looks like we're going to get out of here early.
All right. Okay. All right, well, thank you then.
No, thank you. And I just want to, before everyone goes, I just want to send another thank you to Dominic and thank you to Tyre for their support with this. The pictures were beautiful, but I really implore everyone to actually go out to just check Tyre out. It's a beautiful space, beautiful bookshop, and the gallery is amazing. So I definitely encourage you all to visit. As I mentioned before, Equity in Practice is a monthly series. So we're excited to bring in someone next month for LGBTQ history. We'll be bringing in the Historical Society of PA, and we're going to take a look at the past and just the journey of the LGBTQ history, particularly in Philadelphia as well. So be on the lookout for that registration. I'll definitely be sending that out. And just want to also mention that I will send out a very quick survey to folks, if you would be so kind, just to measure how you were able to enjoy the session and if the information was useful. So I'll be sending it out to the group as well. But thank you everyone for attending, and I think we're good to go. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Do the same.
Thank you.
Thank you.